Меня зовут Трестер.
My name is Mikhail Abramovich Trester. I was in Minsk from the very beginning of the German occupation. I was 14 when the war started. I spent almost 2 years in the Minsk Ghetto, then after that the Shiroka labor camp. In Minsk Ghetto 100,000 people died. In the Shiroka labor camp another 20,000 perished. On the 20th of July 1941, there was an announcement and order. According to this order, all the Jewish people in Minsk had to move to the special ghetto area organized for the Jewish people. It was announced that those Jews who did not move to this area after 10 days would be killed. There was a great movement by Jewish people from all parts of Minsk to the ghetto area. It was very crowded with poor conditions. There were 16 people living in our room. Several people had to share a bed. In order to survive, you had to have a job. You needed to be 16 years old to get the proper papers that allowed you to work. Because I was only 14, I had to tell the Germans I was 2 years older than I was. I was put in the Shiroka labor camp from the fall of 1941 until July 1943, where I worked at mending shoes. I decided to escape from the ghetto and find the partisans. Signs were posted everywhere that those who tried to escape would be killed. I was able to cut the sharp wire and sleep under a low spot in the ground to crawl, but it was very dangerous. I made it to a village where I was told there were partisans. I wanted to join them, but they were very suspicious. I was a betrayer. I had my work documents. I had to hide them because they said I was a Jew. If the fascists wouldn't have caught me outside the ghetto with these papers, they would have shot me. I folded them very small and hid them in a matchbox I was carrying. I showed the partisans the documents to prove I was from the ghetto. After a while, I was able to join with a group of Jewish partisans commanded by Shlomo Zorin. It was called the 106 Detachment. There were 10 partisan groups operating in this area. Of these 10, there were 2 Jewish groups, Zorin's detachment and another group organized by the Bielsky brothers. Besides the 2 all-Jewish groups, there were many Jewish participants in other groups. Many prominent leaders in different partisan groups were Jewish. According to the historical information in the Belarus National Museum, about 15,000 Jewish people were participating in the partisan movement in this area. Zorin's group had 700 people, including about 150 people who would fight. The remainder were family people, women and children mostly, but family groups also included old people and men also. We were not only saving lives, but we were a work center. We had tailors, bakers and shoemakers. We had people who ground wheat to flour. We had a banya, a bath for the partisans. We had a school for the children. We provided medical aids and a hospital. We organized many military actions against the Germans, but the main purpose of the Jewish camps was to save lives. Those people in Zorin's camp needed to eat, and we furnished food for them to keep them living. The explosions and attacks were not our most important purpose. I stayed with the group until September, when I was commanded to return to the ghetto and bring out medicine for the partisans. They wanted me to find and bring out a specialist who could make the medicine, and other people with skills the partisans needed to survive in the forest. I was told to take out a small group from the ghetto, but as others found out, the group reached 30 people. It was very difficult to move because of the size. I went back 1 month before the Germans liquidated the ghetto. I was not sure I would be able to get out alive again. From freedom to prison again was my assignment. We met in the basement of the ghetto medical center. At 2 a.m. we were able to cut the barbed wire. I ordered the people to wrap rags around their shoes so they wouldn't make any noise. We all managed to get out of the ghetto. I was very surprised. We headed to an area that is now in Minsk, but then was a small village. Germans were on patrol when we got there. I was afraid we would be discovered, so I divided the big group into 3 smaller groups. The first group got through the village okay, but the second group was discovered and most were killed. My group was the last, but we made it to the forest okay. We had covered 110 kilometers from Minsk to the Partisans. After I brought the group from the ghetto, the Partisan taught me to shoot and fight. Because I was a strong young man, I helped build the underground houses. We were always moving to avoid being found. We moved 3 or 4 times during the summer. We lived in tents when it was warm. In the winter, we lived in the ground. The room was dug in the ground and only roof was visible. It was like camouflage. The camps were in the forests, but the Germans could be close, sometimes only 5 or 6 kilometers away. The Germans knew of the existence of the camps, but were afraid to go into the forests. The Germans were very afraid of the partisan operations. During the German retreat from Russia, they surrounded the forests. They had 70 or 80,000 soldiers. They organized an offensive against the partisans to prevent attacks while they were retreating. It was very difficult for the partisans. We had to move deeper into the forests to a place that was covered with swamps. Many people died during this time. We still organized action against the Germans. Explosions were organized on the road to disable German vehicles. Once they were stopped, we could attack them. Also, communication lines could be cut, and explosions were organized against German trains. On the 6th of July 1944, 3 days after Minsk was liberated, we were attacked by a group of Germans and 6 of our people died. Many people, including our commander, were wounded and many people died. We killed many Germans and took some prisoners. We shot them afterwards. We did the same to the German soldiers as they did to us. We put them to a wall. We were furious and angry against the Germans. Sometimes it was too dangerous to make noise by shooting. If we couldn't shoot them, we used a knife or stone. I was not considered a hero by my age, but I fulfilled all my orders. After the liberation, the Russian army provided some transportation back to Minsk, so by about July 10th or 11th, 1944, many people came back to the city. They found houses and work. Many men who were over 18 went to fight in the Russian army, but because I was not yet 18, they wouldn't let me join, even though I tried a number of times. It was a very difficult time for those people who survived and experienced fascism. These days, it's very strange and frightening in Russia and Belarus to see fascism grow and develop. But I'm positive that if they try to organize the same type of actions they did in 1940s, they would not be successful again. I saw in 1946 how they put to the death the German soldiers, and I saw how those that try to develop such movements, fascism, anti-Semitism and such, will end in the same way and not be successful. In this way, I am very optimistic.